Kopitiamconversations.
This is Kopitiam Conversations. I'm your host Winston, and my guest today is Racheltan. Rachel serves as the Business Development Manager, Malaysia, at Peatix, a global event discovery platform that connects people to communities. She works closely with event organisers and community builders across various industries from arts and culture to business and technology in managing events and growing communities. She also has her own podcast, and you can also follow her on Rachel's chat room. Welcome, Rachel.
Hey Winston, thanks so much for having me. So good to be on your show. Hello, everyone.
Thank you. I love concerts. I love events. I love the buzz that I get out of, buying the tickets and then feeling that buzz when it's a few days before the concerts, and then after that, when the concert happens, you go there and you are also hyped up about it. But not to bring down today's episode on a bummer so soon, but with the prolonged lockdown due to the pandemic, more and more event organizers and event-related businesses get things like catering services that usually supports an event, right? The logistics, the sound and lighting, production crew, stage carpenters, and are experiencing hard and desperate times now. I'm sure you are aware of that, right? And it has all come to a head when you see this hashtag bendera putih things happening now. So obviously, people in this industry, their livelihood and survivability of their business, hinge upon the essence of delivering the physical presence brought about by events. That whole experiential vibe that people get in the events and all that, they are unable to bring it to the audience. So how are event management companies able to weather and survive through this season? And this season has gone on for quite a long time already, like nearly 1.5 years now.
Right. Yes. What you said, it's really true. A lot of event organizers are suffering, and this is across the board. People doing music, people organizing events, people in the production houses. Yeah. So I think what's really important is that you really have to know how to pivot, which is one of the buzzwords of 2020 and 2021, right? Yeah, you have to know how you can actually move everything online, at this point, because you don't really have an option. Well, unless you have something to fall back on. But because if you're you just have to imagine that COVID is going to be here easily until end of this year, or maybe even until end of next year. Who knows, right? So I think what's important is that you have to just imagine that this is going to go on for probably the next few years, right? If not forever. Well, hopefully not forever. Yeah, it will go, personally, I believe, right? Eventually. But yeah, you have to know how to move your business online, right? So in the events sphere, I would say, I'll give you an example, like for musicians, right? Who are a group of people that we work very closely with, So a lot of, especially those full-time musicians, they have not been able to perform at physical venues anymore, right? So what's important for them is that they have to know how to, work the online system. They have to learn, upskill themselves, in terms of hooking up their equipment to the computer, whatever. In other words, live streaming, right? They have to start considering doing live streaming if they have not considered doing so before. Yeah, and it really helps. Yes, people may not be super receptive to online shows, but over time, actually, people would start learning and accepting, because not only for the organizers, if you think about it, right? Like the attendees themselves are also stuck at home. Yeah, and sometimes when you're so bored with other stuff at home, your house chores, people don't mind, spending a little bit of money on music, on entertainment, right? Yeah, it's still a very valuable thing in most people's lives. So I would say you have to know how to pivot. That's one thing. You have to know how to you have to have the willingness to learn and to equip yourself, upskill yourself. And honestly, there are a ton of resources out there. Like a lot of things could be learned via YouTube and whatnot. So yeah, learning to adapt to the new world, the new norm, is what they call it, right? Upskilling yourself. Yeah. So, and also there are a lot of platforms available. So yeah, it's definitely not the end of the end of the road or whatever. Yeah, there is actually a lot of opportunities out there.
In the case of seminars, trainings, and workshops, those of us in the corporate line, we probably, experience a lot of these trainings, seminars, and workshops online, right? That's quite a common thing these days. And of course, in this industry, right, especially corporate trainers and all that, I'm certain that there are still opportunities for growth in this area, going online, right? But things seem less rosy for music concerts, which of course, as I said earlier, thrive on the presence, the experience of the crowd. And of course, one of the key elements is the elaborate sound systems. Okay, and of course, if an audience were to sit at home and watch an online concert, okay, it feels like it's a poor compromise, a cheap second best if you are talking about accessing music using a standard headphones like this one, or PC speakers and all that. So what are your thoughts on this?
We've actually had a lot of organizers, a lot of musicians do shows on our platform, and honestly the sound quality is really much more decent than you think. I mean, obviously, unless if you're like a musician, you might have like a much higher standard, but I would say for the average user, it's really not settling for less. It's pretty good, because I've tuned into a lot of online shows, online music shows at least, right? So what I would say is that for the musicians, on your side, just do your part, right? Like if you could invest in good equipment, you should, right? Because if you're thinking of doing this for the long term, you want to do like a series of shows, it's worth the investment. So obviously, if you spend a little bit more on equipment, you would have better sound quality, right? Just like anything in life. Yeah. So just do your part as an organizer, and then like do a lot of test runs to ensure like the best experience for your attendees. And also for the attendees, depending on your requirement as a listener, as an attendee, right? Like if you are a really big fan of like music in general and you're very particular, chances are you would have like pretty decent gadgets at home to tune into music. Yeah, but I would say in general for the average attendee, like a normal laptop like what you and I have right now, or even like your smartphones, they meet pretty they have pretty decent quality, so it's not really settling for so much less than you think. Yeah. So I would say investing in great equipment, and also even sometimes you don't, your laptop is not the only choice, your phone is not the only choice. A lot of attendees actually cast it to their TV, so they watch it in like full screen HD. Yeah, so I think it's and it can actually give a pretty good experience. And also we talked about this earlier, fairy lights and all that, right? So as on the organizers part, yeah, this is where you could do your best for your attendees, right? Like you could dress up your setup, and try to replicate the physical experience as much as you can. Obviously, we all know that you will never ever replace like the full physical event experience, right? But you can always try to aim for it. Yeah, and I think it's good to do that. In fact, that would be a biggest compliment for a musician, for an artist, right? And we've had that feedback before from attendees for some of the artists who have performed on a platform. Like the attendees would say in a live chat, "Oh my God, I really feel like I'm in the room with you. This really feels exactly like, attending a physical event." So, you can actually do that, to try to replicate that similar experience. And it's sometimes not so much about the physical venue per se, like the physical experience. Sometimes it's your energy, your energy that you deliver over the screen. Sometimes the lightings and all that, right? It does help. It definitely helps. But how you perform, the energy you put in, the love or the creativity you put in, it will actually transcend, the screen. Yeah. So it does help. And we all know that, there's so many artists around the world who have done a lot of virtual shows, and their tickets, have been sold out. Yeah. So it's definitely doable. Yeah. Over the virtual, in the virtual sphere.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, the sound of the crowd screaming and that sort of things, right? Will be lost in the online event. So I don't know. Maybe there is a way that you can edit the background sound effects with the crowd screaming and all that. It feels a bit fake, but yeah, whatever works, I suppose.
Yeah, it depends on the organizer how you want to do it. Sometimes, I mean, we work with a lot of organizers, and they could be musicians or singers, comedians, right? And this is what you just said is very relevant to. It's something that comedians in general would totally understand, and this is one of their biggest challenges, honestly, to actually pivot online, right? Because imagine being in a physical venue,
right.
You're so used to delivering jokes on the spot, and you get immediate feedback on your joke, meaning to say, like, that, oh, this joke material is funny, like people will laugh, ha ha ha, you literally can hear it, right? So and then also you can improvise along the way, but this is not something that is so easily done over the screen, right? So the workaround to this would be to encourage people. For instance, if you're talking about using the Zoom platform, this is where the attendees could be more encouraging by turning on their camera, their audio, right? Because it's funny, right? If you think about it, a lot of online events, usually the organizer would, turn off your mics. They would tell you up front, hey guys, if you mind turning off the mic, that would be great. But in the comedy scene, it's quite different. It's quite the opposite. They want people to turn on their camera. They want people to turn on their audio. Yeah, so I would say that would be the workaround.
To get someone out of their homes into the vaccination center, or what we call the PPVs and all that, it's actually getting people, kind of like attending an event, right? It feels like that. Then you go there, you have that whole ritual of queuing up, right, waiting for your turn, clearing a certain checkpoint, and ta-da, it's your turn, that kind of thing. It feels like that, right?
For sure, yes.
Okay, now you help event organizers list their events and also manage the sales and distribution of the e-tickets, right? Like you said earlier about, comedy clubs and things like that, right? Selling e-tickets. How have these ticket sales been in general? Are they do they sell like thousands or hundreds or?
Sure, like the ticket sales and the responses they've been getting.
In general, how have the responses to the ticket sales been?
Right, yeah. So it really depends on what type of event you're talking about. It ranges anywhere from sometimes about 20 plus, or sometimes slightly less than that, all the way to hundreds of tickets. Yeah. So again, it depends because there's so many types of events on our platform. And also, by the way, so Peatix is a self-service platform, right? So the idea is to provide you the platform to facilitate your event management, right? We want to make things as seamless as possible for both the organizer and the attendees. So in other words, when it comes to the terms and conditions, the pricing and whatnot, it all depends on what the organizer wants for their own event. So we don't set the pricing, it's the event organizers themselves who decide on that. So if you're talking about ticket sales, I can give you an example. Like right now, we have a e-commerce platform that does a lot of workshops, right, for their sellers. And I was quite surprised to see that, they have been selling tickets like hotcakes. Yeah, and actually, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? Because during this pandemic, everyone's at home, right? So everyone's shopping online and whatnot. So they are actually really thriving, e-commerce platforms. So yeah, it could be hundreds of tickets, or sometimes if you're talking about just the small community meetup, that could be maybe about 20 plus 30. And sometimes just because obviously if you're comparing it to an event that has sold hundreds, right, it looks like, oh my god, so much less, but actually not really. It's not really the case. Reason being is that some event organizers intentionally want to keep a small circle, right? So they cap it at a certain limit, right? So because don't forget, sometimes volume is not everything, ticket sales is not everything. In other words, like I said, depends on what you want. Sometimes you want a connection, right? So if you're talking about events like the community meetup where they talk about mental health issues, or how you've been coping during this pandemic, in fact, I would say it's actually healthy to keep a small number. right? Just so
Yeah.
people feel at ease when they share their stories and whatnot.
Yeah.
So usually events like this, I would say about 20 plus or sometimes around 30, right? For music shows, virtual concerts, it really ranges. Sometimes it could be as less as few as about 20 or slightly slightly less than 20, or it could go up to like it just very recently we sold a show. I mean, the organizer, the ticket sales was really good. Like it went up to like about 200 tickets, which was really amazing if you think about it, right? In taking into consideration the current situation, right?
That's
the
right.
pandemic, and people have been more mindful with their spending. So to have a concert that sells like more than 100 tickets, it's really a huge achievement.
Yep.
Especially I would say in Malaysia, we have not really been accustomed to paying for online shows, especially music shows, right? So
Yep.
I guess we've had like 1 year of practice right over the past year, because we started this lockdown, I think since March or something, right? So I mean, based on my observation over the past year, I see that Malaysians have been more and more receptive towards shows like this. So the challenge becomes like, what would be the fair price range for the organizer? So there isn't like a right or wrong pricing, honestly. Right. It really comes down to the demand for the content, and also like what you think is fair, because like every industry has got like a different fair price range, right? Certain things, certain workshops are like certain niches or like specialized knowledge. Certain workshops could go up to like over 100. So it sounds like, oh my god, it's over more than 100, but then in the marketplace, like people who are in that industry will know that this is actually an acceptable range. You know what I mean? So it really ranges, the ticket sales.
So the price range you're talking about, how low to how much do they actually fetch for, especially for Malaysia? And I know certain Malaysians are willing to pay a very high bracket, and of course some were like, hey, look, I'm not getting that full experience, so maybe I've only got this amount that I'm willing to pay for. So from your experience on Peatix, working with Peatix, right? What will be the highest so far, and what is the lowest so far that has been attractive enough for the audience at home?
Right. So tickets can go as low as 10 ringgit, or I would say 20 ringgit seems to be the sweet spot, so to speak, right? So, or up to about slightly over 100, and those are usually specialized workshops, I would say. But I would say the most comfortable price range, at least from what I've observed on our platform, seems to be like 20 plus to like maybe up to like 50 plus. But like for instance, like a music concert, right, a virtual gig, right, it normally ranges from like 20 to like 30 plus or 40 plus, right? So this, I would say, is the price range where attendees wouldn't think twice about. You know what I mean? Like anything that I notice that exceeds like 40 or 50, right, that is where people would start thinking twice. And so I mean, you would definitely see the difference in the ticket sales, right? So again, it depends on the type of event, right? So like I said earlier, if you're holding a workshop, and this workshop is not you don't easily get it in the market, and even if you do, you want like really credible trainers. So these kind of workshops can fetch quite a high price. It could go like more than 100. So but I think the organizers holding workshops like this, they are aware that they wouldn't attract just any Tom, Dick and Harry. They know who they're targeting, and they know the people that they're targeting would be willing to pay for this, for this kind of workshop at this price. So sometimes, right, you don't necessarily have to sell like 100 tickets. Well, obviously that would be ideal for pretty much any organizer, but sometimes like say if you're holding a workshop, there's only so much attention you can give to everyone, so you want to keep it small. Sometimes they just want that like 5 packs, you know what I mean, for that class, and it would be enough. So it really depends on your what type of event. Like obviously, like for online music concert, you want as many people as possible, right? Like I said, like our recent event, this organizer sold about 200 tickets, which is amazing. If every concert, if every musician can do that, that'll be like a huge success, and they will be like really stoked about it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Interesting. With all these strategies in mind, right, to attract the audience at home, okay, what other freebies or promotional tools that you all use when you want to attract audiences?
Right. So I can share with what I've observed from our clients. We call them our event organizers, right? What they have done so far to attract, to basically incentivize, right, attendees, right, would be depending on the type of your event. Let's say if you're doing a workshop, right, or a preview session, right, a business workshop, what you can do is to throw in a free consultation, like a one-on-one consultation, because people love attention, right? So that one-on-one does help. Yeah, so that is one idea. Or you could, let's say if you're doing a music concert, right, online music show, you could throw in the merchandise. Yeah, or you could, so meaning to say, instead of just paying for a ticket, you could throw in the merchandise, or you could partner with certain brands or sponsors as a giveaway. And we've had organizers do that before, like during the show, they would make it fun by having them answer certain questions, and whoever wins like a official merchandise by by this artist. Yeah, so that's a great idea. There are actually a lot of opportunities, a lot of ideas to incentivize your attendees with, and also let's see what else. Partnering with brands, and also and then also you could do a lot of brainstorming with your peers in your industry to come up with a lot of ideas. Maybe you could do a promotion, right? Let's say Merdeka, it's just around the corner, right? Yeah, we could do like a Merdeka promotion where you buy one ticket and then you have another ticket free, or you could, it doesn't have to be free if that's if you can't afford that, that kind of promotion, then maybe you could just give like half price. It definitely helps, right? Buying 2 tickets for the ticket of for one, right? So it really helps. Yeah, so there are really a lot of ideas. And then also you could provide certain materials, maybe like a free PDF book. Let's say if you're doing a workshop, right? E-books, or if you are ebooks, it helps, like for ebook nerds. I love ebooks, so I would do things like this. Yeah, so right, it's still something valuable, right? Because it's something that is unique to you as the organizer. It's not in the market and whatnot. Or sometimes even the recording of a certain training session. Yeah, that is definitely valuable, because people pay for training sessions, like especially corporates and whatnot. So if you could share like a certain recording of a certain training workshop, whatever, that definitely helps. In fact, I know that certain organizers do that. Like I've been on Clubhouse recently, and I know this, right? A lot of I've got this new favorite guy. His name is Christo, right? And he's so smart in how he how he actually manages his I don't know what you call this, all these materials, So because whatever he says is so valuable, like I would want the replay of it. And you know how it works on Clubhouse. You miss it completely, right? So what he's been doing is that if you want a recording of it, sign up for my for my like pro community. That is where like all our members would have exclusive access to it. Yeah, you see, you think about it, it's a really smart idea.
Yeah,
exactly. Like like because I'm really such a huge fan of him, right? I'm like, damn it, I missed his talk, and because of the time zone differences, he's based in the States.
Right.
But it's such a that's such a bummer. But you see, this is an idea. Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there are just so many things you can explore with, honestly. If you just spend some time talking to people, do your research, or just observe what other people are doing, and then sometimes it could be a different industry, but it's okay. You just like apply the same principle or the same thought processes, and then try to customize it and make it work for your specific industry, your specific niche.
More recently, this year's Rainforest World Music Festival offered free tickets for audiences who registered. So I registered for access to be an audience for the event, but due to the busy schedule, and sometimes your busy schedule bleeds over to the weekend, right? And obviously the Rainforest World Music Festival was over a weekend, and I forgot to log on. I missed it because all engagements are limited to the small screen of the PC monitors. And like you mentioned earlier, more than a few people will cast their programs onto their television and all. Now, how can an audience sit for 3 or 4 hours in a stretch to watch a live event?
Right.
You can go to a concert and watch a concert for 3 hours plus and all that, and you don't get that same fatigue. Whereas if I were to put you in front of those PC chairs or even your sofa, you get a bit squirmish after a while. You get a bit restless.
For sure.
So what do you think?
Yeah,
Your thoughts?
I think the organizer themselves, right? Like they know that they wouldn't be able to retain their attendees at least not 3-4 hours in a row. They're fully aware of that, right? So, and also you know why you forgot to log on? Because you didn't pay for it. So my point is,
commitment, yep.
Yeah. So my point is, sometimes it's very counterintuitive, right? You would think that making it free would, encourage more signups. Yes, that is true. But then you lose that sense of commitment. So sometimes, especially for new organizers, I would suggest to them, you could actually consider charging, for your tickets. Well, it doesn't have to be like a super expensive price, right? Just a little amount, to also make up for some of your investment, whatever, right? So it does help, right? Imagine if you paid 100 ringgit for that. You think you will forget so easily? I don't think so. You know what I mean? In fact, you will want to maximize it, and you will want to sit your butt down for like that 3 to 4 hours.
I am so screwed. Oh my goodness. You know what this means? This means the Rainforest World Music Festival is going to come after me, all right? Or rather, the fans are going to come after me because I have just monetized the event for them now, right? So next year, they're going to charge and they're going to come after me. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Right? Yeah, because attendees in general, everyone would want like a free meal or free show, right? Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
But so yes, you may have like that volume, in terms of ticket sales, but when it comes to like the event day itself, that's when you see like, how many people are genuinely interested in the events, especially in the digital sense, right? So sometimes it's good to charge, right? So it's good for both parties, right? So on the attendee side, you definitely want to sit down and like maximize your whatever you paid for the ticket. And then on the organizer side also, right? Even if the ticket sales may not be that much, but at least you have some returns, and that is very important to keep the organizers going, because just like any industry, everyone wants some encouragement, because if they put in so much effort to plan for a show and people not showing up, it's very disheartening. Sometimes, as counterintuitive as it sounds, it does help to put a price to it. Right. So I want to encourage all event organizers to put a price to your tickets. Well, obviously, if you can afford to give a free show, and if you're doing like a charity, by all means, So it's just a suggestion for you to consider, because so you have your attendees sit down for your show 3 to 4 hours, right? People will not so conveniently forget, oh yeah, I forgot, I actually signed up for this. It's very hurtful for the organizer.
Right.
Especially to plan content for like 3 to 4 hours. So also obviously on the organizer side, they have to think like what value they could provide, because right now attention is so important, right? Attention it's so valuable. I mean, everyone is fighting for people's attention. Like what makes your event stand out? Why would I want to tune in to your show when I could be, I don't know, reading a book, watch Netflix and chilling, whatever, right? So you have to find something that people are not able to access easily, with other activities. So this is where you have to really sit down and think through and curate your content to attract the right audience to your events.
Okay. So, to the audiences of the Rainforest World Music Festival, I am so sorry if next year you have to pay for your tickets, because I raised this issue up, and now if the Rainforest organizers are going to pick up this video and Yeah, so really sorry about that.
No worries. I believe they would do better next year. And then the other attendees, so thanks to you, Winston, because of you, I don't get to enjoy a free show.
Yeah, they're gonna put my picture over there and probably gonna give it a dartboard or something, right?
Probably, who knows, right?
Yep. Okay, thanks so much for your time, Rachel. Thanks so much for appearing in today's episode. Yeah.
My pleasure, Winston. Thanks so much for having me. It's been so fun chatting with you.